sun will always shine on the old Liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty.
I have actually known Mike Davis for a very long time, something like 20 years at least. And Mike, you've always been right about these things. And as we said in that clip, you effed around, and now it seems like the finding out is here.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like I woke up on the wrong side of the gutter in that clip, but I was right. I would say to Big Tish, you better lawyer up, because justice is definitely coming, as I have predicted for 3 years on your show, Ben, and every other show that I went on. And I'm going to make damn sure justice is coming, because Tish James politicized and weaponized the New York Attorney General's office to go after President Trump and try to bankrupt him for the non-fraud of President Trump paying back sophisticated Wall Street banks on time, as agreed, in full, with interest. And Tish James's theory is that Mar-a-Lago, which is 20 acres of the most prime real estate on the planet, I think it's the only piece of property that touches both the Atlantic Ocean and the intracoastal waterway in Palm Beach, Florida. Tish James said that it was only worth $18 million. So Trump overvalued his property to get favorable loans. It's just utter nonsense. A tennis court in Mar-a-Lago is worth more than $18 million. So I think it is just so rich that Tish James, who went after Trump on a fraud theory, a mortgage fraud theory, is now facing her own mortgage fraud liability, because it's very clear. She, under New York statutes, in order to serve as the attorney general, she has to reside in New York. And she said on this loan application that this Virginia residence was her primary residence. Well, both of those things cannot be the same. You can't be a primary resident of New York to fulfill your statutory duty as the New York Attorney General, and also be a primary resident in Virginia to get a favorable loan where you're defrauding mortgage lenders. The same bogus theory she used against Trump for his non-fraud, she actually committed fraud. So I am very excited. I hope that the new U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay, moves forward very aggressively. And if there's evidence that she committed mortgage fraud, which it looks like there is, you have the documents, then they need to indict Tish James. And here's a bigger reason other than pure retribution on my part, which I think retribution is a crucial part of justice, by the way, because it restores the victims and serves as a powerful deterrent. Another reason this is so important because is this: if Big Tish can get away with mortgage fraud, what kind of a deterrent does that send to every other American who's applying for a mortgage? Can they all lie on their mortgage applications and get away with it because Big Tish got away with it? No. So it's time to put Big Tish's fat ass in prison, like I said right after the election.
Oh boy, Mike. Well, you made headlines. There it is right there. This is a fun one from the New York Post. Laying down the law, I dare you, and so on. So well done, Mike. We'll see what Media Matters has today, and we'll see if Media Matters goes after us for putting up this photo of Big Tish, because I just think it's really funny, and it's not photoshopped, actually. I don't think this one's photoshopped. Is it? Let's see. I don't know. I'm not sure. This is the photo of Big Tish actually watching your interview right now live. I can't believe we got this leaked to us. Grimace, not happy. What about another seemingly mythical character, James Comey, at least in his own mind, who is very above the law, who is himself the law? And we've learned through multiple corroborated breaking news reports that James Comey will be potentially suffering from lying to Congress and breaking the law himself. What do you say, Mike?
Yeah, I think it was October 1st, 2020. So just under 5 years ago, which is important, as we'll discuss. James Comey went before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he was asked questions under oath by Senator Ted Cruz about Crossfire Hurricane, the Russian collusion hoax. And Comey's lies to Congress, where Comey said that he did not have discussions with the media. Well, his deputy, Andrew McCabe, said he did. So there's clear evidence that that Comey lied to the Senate Judiciary Committee under oath just under 5 years ago, which is perjury. It's also obstruction of a congressional investigation. It could also be conspiracy. And so James Comey, who pretends like he's this Boy Scout who wants to go after, he's this fake Republican Boy Scout who wants to team up with Obama and Biden and Hillary and Clapper and so many others and run the Jack Smith, Jay Bratton, run the Crossfire Hurricane bogus investigation and the cover-up to go after President Trump, to take him out and to help Hillary Clinton's campaign to cover up her corruption. It looks like James Comey is going to have his own perjury problems. Now, here's the issue. There's a 5-year statute of limitation on perjury and obstruction of a congressional investigation. So Lindsay in the Eastern District of Virginia, and I think James Comey testified from the Eastern District of Virginia. I think he testified via Zoom because this was during COVID and it wasn't in D.C., thankfully, because the D.C. grand jurors won't even, indict carjackers. But so the Eastern District of Virginia has a few more sane grand jurors out there. And I hope Lindsay, the new U.S. attorney, moves forward and indicts James Comey for perjury and obstruction of a congressional investigation. And I think she has to do it by September 30th. So we're getting close. I will say this, that for conspiracy, the statute of limitations does not start until the conspiracy ends. So when you are covering up a conspiracy, you're continuing the conspiracy. So even if somehow they can't charge him with perjury or obstruction by September 30th, I have a different idea, or maybe an additional idea, that James Comey could be part of the conspiracy grand jury, maybe down in the Southern District of Florida, where they did the Mar-a-Lago raid. My new buddy, Jason Redding Quinones, is the U.S. attorney down there. I think he'd be a great guy to do this. He's a great patriot, calls balls and strikes. So James Comey is he's going to face justice one way or the other, whether it's with Lindsay in the Eastern District of Florida or Eastern District of Virginia, or Jason down in the Southern District of Florida. This guy is a snake. And this is what's so important about this, Ben. Remember what they did. They politicized and weaponized intel agencies and law enforcement to try to take out a presidential candidate, to help another presidential candidate, and to cover up her corruption. And when that failed in 2016, they continued to go after the duly elected president of the United States and sabotage him. And then when he left office and took these Crossfire Hurricane records with him that he declassified, they ran unprecedented republic-ending lawfare against the former president of the United States, including the Mar-a-Lago raid. They tried to bankrupt him for non-fraud, as we talked about with Big Tish. They tried to throw him in prison 4 times for non-crimes. They tried to take him off the ballot unconstitutionally. They tried to take off his head twice when they underfunded the Secret Service protection. And Biden said to pull the bullseye on him after calling him the gravest threat to democracy. I have made this my mission over the last 3 years, and it will be my mission for the next 4 years. These lawfare Democrats are going to face justice. And I am doing everything in my power, very publicly, on your show for the last 3 years, telling everyone exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it. I'm not trolling anyone. I'm going to put these I'm going to help put these lawfare Democrats in prison for their real crimes.
What would be your message to James Comey right now, presently, because we're seeing the leaks? I'm not exactly sure where they're coming from, but I love if they are coming from the DOJ, I love that it's MSNBC that's getting them, because they constantly platform James Comey. And so this is almost like a message to James Comey. I snickered when I saw that breaking on CNBC and NBC and MSNBC. I'm like, oh, okay. You're going to where the snake lives. And you're forcing them to eat it. And so now that it's all but confirmed that it's going to happen, what is your message to James Comey?
Lawyer up, Big Jim. And we are going to be making the 6'6" prison jumpsuits as we speak, because this guy is a snake. He participated in the biggest scandal in American history. When they talk about the threat to democracy, Crossfire Hurricane and the cover-up is the gravest threat to democracy we've seen in America. And so justice is definitely coming.
What about John Bolton? I know we're up against a hard out here, Mike, but John Bolton here, according to the New York Times, the Washington Post here, FBI has seized a boatload of classified documents from John Bolton's office. The article goes on to say, and this is a well-researched article written by deeply credentialed professional journalists, that many of the documents were found hidden and stashed under John Bolton's mustache. And they had to, it was a tough one, but they got him. So what say you to John Bolton?
I would say espionage is a very serious felony, John Bolton. I think he actually criticized President Trump for having his presidential records in the office of former president in Mar-a-Lago, which is allowed by the Presidential Records Act, whether they're classified or not. But if I remember correctly, during my 5,000 media hits over the last 3 years, supporting and defending President Trump against this unprecedented Republican-ing lawfare, I think he was one of the people who was criticizing President Trump on espionage. So it's quite rich, like Tish James, Big Tish, going after President Trump for mortgage fraud when she's committing her own mortgage fraud is going to be quite rich if Bolton goes to prison for espionage.
Yeah, right. And a final word, Mike, in conclusion here, about the overall grand conspiracy. This seems to be one that's sort of hit really hard, like a bombshell at the beginning of the summer. And then things have sort of like not fizzled out, not saying nothing's happening, but we're not talking about Obamagate anymore. You know, we're not really talking about Russiagate. There's been a lot of like various different news cycles and waves. Can you give us sort of a status update? What do you know? What can we expect? Is this for real? Is it actually going to happen? The people that created the Mar-a-Lago raid, are things going to go down?
Like I said, I have very publicly for the last 3 years called for the indictment of everyone who participated in the Russian collusion hoax, Crossfire Hurricane, and the subsequent cover-up, the conspiracy against rights, under 18 USC Section 241, a very serious federal civil rights felony. Jack Smith and Merrick Garland and Jay Bratt and Joe Biden, they're very familiar with this charge, because this is one of the charges they brought against President Trump. One of the four federal charges that they brought against President Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential election, which is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887 and the First Amendment. So these people are used to using this statute, and so now they're going to be used to being on the receiving end of this statute, conspiracy against rights, 18 USC Section 241, because again, when you politicize and weaponize intel agencies and law enforcement to go after your political enemies for non-crimes, which is exactly what Joe Biden, his Justice Department, Big Tish, Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, Chris Mays in Arizona, so many of these lawfare Democrats, whether they were in government or working with them outside of government, like, for example, Andrew Weissman, Jay Bratz, Matthew Colangelo, so many others involved with this. When you do that, you have committed a very serious federal civil rights violation conspiracy, in addition to other crimes. And again, I'm pushing very hard for the Southern District of Florida, like I've done for the last 3 years, to open a criminal probe. I imagine that's going to happen very soon. If I were a betting man, as you say I am, Ben, I would put everything on the line on that bet.
Strong words from a strong man. Mike Davis, somebody who constantly stiffens the spines of Republicans. Too many cases to actually enumerate and elucidate right now, but he does it, man. He does it behind the scenes with the Article 3 project. He makes sure that Republicans in Washington, D.C. are scared. And you want Republicans to be scared of the base. You want them to know that there's going to be accountability, and you want them to be strong. The Article 3 project right here, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Davis, keeping them strong. Follow Mike Davis. He's got close to 500,000 subscribers on X. So go ahead and give him a follow. Obviously, Mike Davis, influencer, and soon we'll be starting his TikTok page to do TikTok dances, I'm sure, next. And so we look forward to the influencer. We've enjoyed watching the influencer Mike Davis blossom. Thank you, Mike. Godspeed.
Thank you, sir.